Rev up your engines!
Well, maybe sad but true, the Mazda Miata is starting to die because nobody's buying them. Mazda year-over-year sales, the end of September this year, are up 15%, but the Mazda Miata is way down. Sales of Mazda Miata is down 25.6% for the quarter. And they only sold 5,780 of them for 3/4 of the year. Last year was 7,569 for 3/4 of the year. So that's not many. Americans aren't into sports cars anymore. Now, if you like Mazda Miatas, some people are suggesting if you've got one, sell your used one and buy a new one so they keep making them. So they don't stop making them, because at those sales figures, it makes no sense. If you're only selling like 6,000 cars a year, it doesn't make any sense to build the things. And this is all of the sales of Mazda being down of the Miata. Now, they have a hard top versus a soft top. The soft top sales are even worse. They're down 33%. Soft tops, you pick them with your hand, put them down, they're kind of cute. I never bought one now. I'm not really a convertible fan. There's too much hassle in the winter. Now, part of the problem is the price of the Miatas, like everything else, keeps going up. Average one's like $35,000 up. So for a toy, a two-seater, a lot of people do buy them used. I get lots of people all over the place buying. They'll buy a used one for $5,000, $3,000, or a junker for $500 and then fix it up, because they're pretty reliable vehicles. They're easy to fix. They're easy to work on. They're small. They don't weigh much, right? So if you're going to buy one, most people are going to say, hey, I'll get a used one. Maybe I'll even spend $10,000 on this beautiful used one, right? But are you going to spend $35,000 on a new one for a toy that you're going to use once in a while? No, you aren't. So it's kind of a combo. Americans aren't that into two-seater sport car convertibles anyway, and that they're pricing themselves out of their own existence. They're tiny little cars. Not that many people want tiny little cars, but I hate to see them go away because I like them. But I'm not going to go out and buy one for $35,000 either. Most people aren't, with this low sales of like 5,000 of them the first 3/4 of the year, right? October, November, December, that's all that's left the last quarter. So the first 3/4, that's all they've sold. That's not much. It's not worth a company building them. Well, if you really have to get a Tesla, maybe now's the time. Because the Tesla Model 3 standard range has a killer lease deal. They say that you can get it as low as $263 a month. Now, I'd never advise buying one, leasing, whatever, but if you really want to get your hands on one, why not lease one now? If you get away with only $263 a month and you want to try it out, what's that, It's only $3,156 a year. So why not? If you gotta absolutely get your hands on a Tesla and try, why not try one of these lease deals? Now, they claim that's what the lowest is. I'm sure you go to the Tesla dealers, they won't give you a deal like that. This is their advertising hoopla nonsense, right? But they claim you can get it for as little as $256 a month. And if you really have to get one, hey, why not get it out of your system? It reminds me, years ago I had a customer, and she did the same thing with a Jaguar. They had a great lease because nobody was buying the Jaguars in Texas. So she got a great lease. She had it for 3 years, and then when she finally got rid of it, I said, what do you think of that? She said, well, I'm glad I got it out of my system. I'm glad I didn't buy the stupid vehicle. I just leased it. Now Jaguar has it back, and I'll get myself a Lexus. And she did, and she was happy. So if you got to get one, maybe now's the time to do it. Well, here's one I love. A Cybertruck owner lost his Geico insurance because the company says it doesn't qualify for coverage. They're not going to cover Cybertrucks because they say, and I quote, we are unable to insure your 2024 Tesla Cybertruck because this type of vehicle doesn't meet our underwriting guidelines. I think it's hilarious. They won't even insure the things at Geico. They see, hey, they're fast, they're going to cause accidents, they got pointy things, they might kill pedestrians, who knows, right? Now, they're not even going to insure the stupid things. The owner of this particular Cybertruck was mad, and he says, it makes no sense to cancel my policy as there are other riskier cars out there. That's sort of like, everyone's stealing candy, why can't I steal candy too? No, hey, I wouldn't blame an insurance company. Let's say we're no longer going to insure Dodge Hellcats because they go too fast and they got 750 horsepower. I wouldn't blame them. They make these vehicles that are absurd for the roads. Top speed limit's maybe 75, right? Do you need something that goes 200 miles an hour? Of course not. And the insurance companies, hey, I don't blame them. Don't insure the things. Why should you have to pay out for somebody buying some crazy vehicle and then all kinds of damage or death occurs because they're driving them too fast. So you might not have thought that if you bought a Cybertruck. Maybe the insurance company all say, we don't want to insure those stupid things. Look at them. They don't meet any of our specifications. Not only are they ugly, they're ugly and they're not safe for either the driver or, more likely, the people outside of them. They gotta get mowed down by these giant things. Well, those lithium batteries are going to save us all. But maybe not. A giant 60,000-pound lithium-ion battery fire shut down the highway for days outside of Los Angeles. 60,000-pound lithium battery, probably a storage one for storing it at power plants, right? Started on fire, and it burned for days. It's so huge, they couldn't put the fire out. A truck full of lithium-ion batteries was knocked down near the port of Los Angeles. In September 26, it exploded and was left to burn for days because they couldn't put it out. If you don't know, lithium burns at a really high temperature. So it's so high, when you spray water on it, the water turns into hydrogen, that's a great fuel, and oxygen that feeds the fuel. The reason they pour water on it is because it's the only thing they got. And if eventually that water cools the temperature below the thousands and thousands degree burning temperature of lithium, the fire goes out. But the problem is, if they start a big fire like that, it's 60,000 pounds of batteries, and it's out, as soon as they turn the water off, starts reigniting, which is exactly what happened here. So they just let it burn out. You keep spraying water forever. Luckily, it was in a desert-type area, so it wasn't hurting anything. It was just sitting there burning. Now, the towing company said the battery is one giant container-sized battery that doesn't come apart. He believed it was used in building for backup power. And he was watching it go on and off and on and off. And now it's finally burnt down, and the towing company is taking the pieces that are left to try to recycle what it is. Yeah, they're going to recycle a whole bunch. It's all carbon, probably, right? You recycle the carbon. That'd be a waste of time. These things are dangerous. I talk to engineers and they all say to me, the bigger a lithium-ion battery is, the more dangerous it is. And in this case, it was a 60,000-pound one. And man, can you imagine? It's burning for days. Right? All that smoke's coming out. The pollutants as it burns. They don't talk about that part, right? Oh, no, they're saving the environment. No, they aren't. They're burning it up. Michael, 79, says, I'm towing a 6,000-pound trailer with my 2019 Nissan Pathfinder. That's a CVT, and I'm going 500 miles. I heard they're not designed for heavy towing, but Nissan claims that it's a capacity of 6,000 pounds. Okay. Here's the thing. You're going to the max towing. Nissan CVTs aren't the greatest in the world. And you're driving on a 500-mile trip. Where's that trip going to be? If you're going to go through the Rocky Mountains up and down, I would never do it. You'll probably burn the transmission out. If you're doing it in the Midwest on flat ground, it's probably perfectly fine. You're not straining it, you know. If you're not going up giant hills all the time, hey. Now, if it was a shorter trip, it shouldn't matter too much. But 500 miles is a long way. And those aren't the greatest transmissions in the world. And you're going 6,000 pounds, the max that it's rated for. I wouldn't do it if you're going through the Rocky Mountains. But like I say, let's say you're in the middle of Illinois and you're driving to Iowa or something. What the heck? Go ahead. You're not going up and down much at all anyway. It ain't going to strain it all that much. But if you are going up big hills and stuff, I wouldn't personally do it. You'd be straining that transmission and you could destroy it. And then where would you be? Well, finally, some common sense in airline travel. An American Airlines passenger was trying to steal a seat in the front, but the real owner comes in and says, get to the back, and everyone cheers on the plane. She sat in seat 8C, but she had paid for 35B, way back, right? She used the old excuse, oh, I want to sit next to my mother. You know what? She could have paid extra for the front seat if she wanted to sit with her mother, right? But no, she just thought she'd pull the old, they've got kids. Oh, I want to sit with my kids. You could have paid more for the fancier seats, right? Now, if you're way in the back, who cares? Who switches where? Trying to go all the way up there. And I love it that the woman that owned the real seat said, get back there, honey. And then people are laughing as she walks back to the plane. The seat that she paid for. You want to do that? Buy the stinking seats. Don't think you can just sit there. I've been in planes where they don't have a plug to plug stuff in because, oh, I always pay for the cheap seats. You're on the same bus as far as I'm concerned, right? Doesn't mean anything to me anymore where I sit, as long as I get there and back and get off the plane as soon as possible. I don't go around stealing other people's seats. So finally, people rose against this crazy wokeness that people are trying to do, that they can do whatever they want because it feels good to them. But no, hey, more people should be like that. You have stuff like that on a plane, speak up about it. Don't just sit there and take it, or guess what? People will take advantage of you. That's how the world works. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.